Hello. In this short talk today, I will take you to the 19th century Estonia, to the rural world, to the world of folk tales, legends, folk songs. We shall talk about the relationships, and we shall also talk about the connections between the two worlds, this world and the other world. And I believe that this topic might be quite suitable for our post-Halloween time, or the souls visiting time, hingedaeg, as we know it in Estonia. So let's get started. First, a few words about genre as a concept. If we think about this not as a tool of classification, but if we talk about communication and thought, we can see that genre is also a mode of perception, mode of outlook, and in this way genres are not isolated, they are not hermetic containers. On the contrary, they are closely connected. If we don't name them, they are unidentified, then they blend in, and the genre boundaries are quite uncertain. There is a lot of ambiguity, how to read them, how to understand them. Questions if we talk about humorous modality or serious modality, if we talk about belief, fiction or entertainment, these are often open questions. Deborah Kupchan and Pauline Turner-Strong have written that genres, like utterances, are permeable and unruly, and they defy uniformity of response. Anyhow, genres are good tools to think with, and I think it provides us a good guide to walk through this quite unruly folklore of 19th century in Estonia, and we shall use the category of belief narrative as a category that breaks the limits of existing genre systems. It brings together some genres that we usually think of as being distinct, like legends, myths, oral histories, conspiracy theories, personal memories, etc. And if we talk about belief, it refers to epistemology, to knowledge, to truth claims, what we know, what we don't know, certainties, uncertainties. As many other concepts in the humanities, belief has also been critically examined, and it has been deconstructed. Rodney Needham in 1972 published his book Belief, Language and Experience, where he showed that belief is not a very useful analytic category to be applied transculturally. It's not a distinct mode of consciousness. It's very difficult to pinpoint the belief. That's something that we know from folklore. And recently, also in folklore studies, there have been claims that we should give up the concept of belief as it is not relevant to folklore. I'm referring to the work of Benjamin Gatling, a recent publication in the Journal of American Folklore, where he argued for this. It was a well-argued paper. I agree with him that we need to think about believing, action, belief as process. However, we should not give up the concept of belief. They go together. Marilyn Motz has written in 1998 that the concept of belief is so central to the discipline that it is hard to talk about folklore without talking about belief. And belief as a concept is also widely used in the study of religion today. I think the study of religion and folkloristics are quite close disciplines, especially if we study belief narratives. So Graham Harvey, who has written a wonderful monograph on religion in everyday life, has written about belief and believing as an enactment of a belief, belief as action, belief as practice. So we can also talk about disbelieving in folklore, because belief and disbelief go together, as we know. And thinking of belief as practice, well, storytelling is a major important practice that expresses, transmits and processes belief. So let's get to the Estonian folklore now. Here is the summary of the tale type 475. It's from this publication, Estonian Folktales, edited by Risto Järv, Mairi Kaasik and Carri Toomeos Orglaan. And the summary of the tale type is as follows. A soldier becomes the heater of hell's kettle. He has to keep the fire under the kettle burning, but is not allowed to look into the kettle. He disobeys, finds his superiors in the kettle and adds fuel to the fire. Therefore, the devil is satisfied with him, and he gets a sack full of sweepings from the hell's floor as his wages. The man goes to an inn, where the sack turns out to be full of gold. The innkeeper steals the soldier's wages. The angry soldier goes back to hell. He tells the devil about the unjust innkeeper and gets a new sack full of gold. As a punishment, the devil takes the innkeeper to hell, or lets the heater of the kettle warn him against ending up in hell. The man lives a rich life with treasure he has earned. So we have this image of a friendly devil here, and of course a happy ending that is typical to this genre of folk tales. Of course, no surprise, it's a widely spread international tale. The index of Hans-Jörg Huter, last edition of Arne Thompson index, shows that the story was spread all over Europe, from north to south, from east to west, also in Central Europe. And it also belongs to the collection of folk tales of the Grimm brothers. It was published under the title Devil's Grimy or Sooty Brother, Des Teufels Russiger Bruder. It appeared in the edition of 1819. Lutz Röhrich has commented upon this tale in his wonderful monograph Folk Tales and Reality, and this is a book that also discusses the relationship between genres, between folk tales and legends, and Lutz Röhrich shows how genres define reality in a different way, and that there are different kinds of realities in folklore. Röhrich has said that this uncompletely undogmatic tale replaces the devil's demonic reality with a human figure, and that it portrays a jestfully distorted view of hell in contrast to the legend. These tales no longer take Christian ideas seriously, showing that folktale tellers molded the figure of the devil independently, even in opposition to the church's version. So we have some debate, some tension here between folklore and the clerical doctrines, as Röhrich shows. In Estonia, the story has been recorded in 29 versions. The first recording comes from the year 1870 from Saaremaa, the largest Estonian island, and the last one from 1937. Here you can see the title page of this popular book of folk tales, where the tale appeared for the first time in 1878. The spread is quite wide. You don't find it, the story only in northwestern Estonia, and the most elaborate, most detailed, longest versions come from southeastern Estonia, from the Orthodox corner of Setumaa. Let's examine some of the motives. But first, a few words about the devil in folk religion, and of course it's not a uniform figure. First we can talk about the devil as the evil one. He more or less corresponds to the clerical doctrines. Then we have this figure of the stupid devil, who can easily be outwitted. We have a large amount of legends, beliefs about different kind of spirits, apparitions, ghosts, and they are brought together under this title of the devil as a kind of umbrella term. Well, devil can refer to vague, various kind of supernatural apparitions. Then the name of the devil also refers to giants of nature sometimes. And we can talk about the social demonization. In Estonia, it was especially the landlord, the superiors, who were demonized, very often identified with the devil. So it's a typical appearance. The evil one in legends is a gentleman, a landlord. And in this illustration you can see a strong connection between the devil and the horse, and the devil and the witch. We shall talk about this connection with horses later in more detail. We need to think about the figure of the devil in legends in order to discuss, to make sense of this folk tale. And we can see that the legends and folk tales are related through inversion. Some motives appear differently in them. We find a kind devil in this folk tale, differently from the legends where he usually is dangerous. The contract that is made between the man and the devil remains valid. They don't break it. The contract holds. Then there are no sanctions followed by this being in the service of the devil, differently from the witch trials, for example. So the man is rewarded, and we see the magical transformation. Sweepings are turned into gold. In legends, often it's the other way around, that if the devil gives money, then it turns into something worthless like ashes or rotten tree leaves. Who is the main hero in this story? Most often he's a soldier, an old soldier, like in the Tale of the Grimm publication. He can also be a poor man, a servant, a poor tailor. In one story, exceptionally, he's a merchant. The typical beginnings are like those. There was a man named Hans serving the German landlords who were extremely cruel to him. Or once there lived an extremely poor man who had a great desire to become rich. Or during the age of serfdom, one serf could not withstand heavy beating. He went to forest to hide himself. So this encounter, meeting the devil in the forest, is very common. Forest is a somewhat dangerous place in Estonian folklore. Usually adventures start there. It's opposed to the home circle. And this also happens in this folk tale. Everything starts from meeting the devil in the forest. The devil appears as an old man, often with a grey hair and beard, as a little old man, grey man, black man, landlord, a great gentleman, surherra. And in this talk I would like to illustrate this association between the devil and hell, and the manor and landlord on the other hand. So I brought some photos illustrating the world of Estonian manors. Exceptionally, the devil also appears as a black dog in this folk tale. Well, in legends, in beliefs, this appearance is quite common, not in this folk tale. Or there are two devils in action, two men in grey suits. The pact, the agreement, is oral. Then the couple, man and the devil, walk to hell, walk through the forest. It's a long walk, but in a couple of stories the hell is underground, so they have to jump into a well or into a lake, and this takes them to hell most often. And that's really in all stories. The hell is associated with manor. It is depicted as a manor, as a nice castle, as a beautiful house, as a living house. Sometimes the house is also depicted black or dirty. The Estonian word must is semantically open. It refers to both. It can be an iron house. The everyday life in hell is quite happy for the man. The man has good food. He drinks beer, eats meat and cakes. But sometimes the food is also simple. He eats lentil soup, fried frogs, drinks Turkish pepper, vodka. So there is something infernal about the food ways in hell. There are several taboos in this story. First, it's forbidden to mention the name of God. Not in all versions, but in some it is said, and it is typical to early modern early modern demonological treatises and Estonian folk belief that you can ward off the devil. The devil loses its power when you mention God or make the sign of the cross. It's also forbidden to wash oneself, to cut hair and fingernails. Like in the story of the Grimm's folk tales, it's forbidden to lift the lid of the kettle, to look into the kettle. The man has to keep the kettle burning, but he cannot look inside. Anyhow, he breaks the interdiction, typical to folk tales, of course, and then he sees who's in the pot. If the man is a soldier, then he sees a general, a colonel, a sergeant, or the words refer to the Russian military service, like polkovnik. And if the man is just a farmhand, a poor man, then he sees his landlord, bailiff, overseer, these people, officials in the manor whom he has hated so much. And just a typical sentence, there was his own landlord together with his family boiling in the pot. Let's take one example. The soldier stayed for the second year of service. He kept thinking, who knows what is there in the pot, and lifted the lid. He saw Udeva shilling, Norra knorring, and Halbu tuglas in the pot. Also the former bailiff and overseer were in the pot. He added firewood under the pot as much as there was space there. The pot started to shake, men in the pot started to whimper. The soldier was happy. You devils, now I can take revenge on you for my father. In a moment the grey man, the devil, came there and said, there must be no bullying. Put only one log into the fire. So we have this just devil here, but what is more remarkable, it's the identification of the landlords. These are real people whom the storytellers knew from everyday life, who are depicted in hell. And it's also remarkable, you see, the soldier appears here. However, the persons in the pot are not his military superiors, they are the landlords. So this social contrast, this conflict was so strong that the nobility is coming into these stories in the versions where you would not expect that they are there. These are typical examples of legendary discourse in Estonia, and in the illustration you see the image of hell in folk beliefs, in demonological doctrines, but in the folktale the situation is contrary. It is the man who is boiling the kettle, and his landlords, the evil ones, often identified with the devil, are in the kettle. And the devil in this story appears as a kind and nice gentleman. So another inversion. Just to show you how these manors look like today, Udeva, Halbu and Norra manor, all in the same Järvamaa county where the story comes from. And let's take another example. The man had a great desire to look into the cauldron. He could not control himself, and so he did. He saw his own landlord in the cauldron, who wanted to get out and begged for help. The man grabbed the finger of the landlord and pulled him. Flop! The skin came off the finger. The landlord stayed in the cauldron and could not escape. A year passed, and the man had again a great desire to look into the cauldron. So he looked in and saw the overseer of his manor, who desperately tried to get out. He begged the man to help him. The man helped him and grabbed the hair of the overseer, but the scalp came off and the overseer fell back into the cauldron. After 3 years, the man went back home. He heard that the landlord had lost skin from one finger. He went to the manor and put the skin back. He was well paid by the landlord. The man also heard that the overseer had lost skin from his head. Again, he went to the manor and put the scalp back. The overseer also paid him well. So that's the start of the happy ending in this story, how the man gets his property, the payment from the landlord, from the overseer. But what is really remarkable here is this chronotope, the time space in this story. We we see that there are the parallel worlds, this world and the hell. They coexist. Future and the present, they merge into one time. So it's a kind of eternal time of the eschatological visions. Something that we also find in the sermons, in the visions of Estonian folk prophets of the 19th century, who were called taevakäijad, the heaven goers, who gave vivid descriptions of hell, and they also described their own landlords and superiors burning in hell. So everyday life and the future of damnation, that they come together. So we see how this poetic genres, can inspire the mystical thinking and visions. In some stories, the man has also other duties in hell. He has to work with the horses. One example, one passage. The grey man told to the man, "Your work will be to bring firewood to these stoves every day. In the stable you can find a white horse. Work with this horse, but never hit his head and never give food to him. Otherwise I won't pay you your salary." The man started to work with the white horse and carried firewood to the cauldrons. One day the load of firewood was so heavy that the horse could not move. The man started to beat the horse and accidentally hit his head. The horse started to talk. "If you get to the earth again, tell your landlord that your father is sending greetings to him. He's a horse in hell and has to carry firewood. Don't be cruel to your presents. I was cruel and now I am in hell." So we have this didactic message in this story. And in another version, the same happens. The horse turns into a human being, a landlord with a big fat belly, and the landlord even writes a letter, a note to the man to bring to his son. And this would be the way how to prove that the man serf from the manor is not lying. It's an evidence from the hell. Otherwise it would be a terrible insult. And the landlord in the other folktale also changes his mind and becomes a very kind and benevolent landlord. But here we also see another folktale type coming in. It's blended into this tale type number 761, the cruel rich man as a devil's horse. But even more, there is a connection to legends and to beliefs, because very often in Estonian beliefs it was the landlords who turned into the devil's horses. We take an example. There was a man near Põltsamaa who was a soldier in Tsarist times. When he was released from the service, he started to come home. He had to walk along a forest path for about 3 kilometers before he reached his home. The path was in extremely bad condition. The man cursed and swore that the path is so bad and that you have to labor yourself through it. As soon as he had said that, he saw a coach that was pulled by coal-black stallions behind him. A coal-black man sat in the coach. The man offered him a lift, and since the path was so bad, the soldier thought, why not? The black man offered him a cigarette, but the soldier was not a smoker. And the black man put the box back into his pocket. The man began to explain that one of the horses pulling the coach was the Baron of Sigavere estate, the second one the Count of Halliste estate, and the third the Provost of Jõgeva estate. Hearing that, one of the black horses scraped the ground and neighed so loud that the forest echoed back. And the black man went on to say that he was going to the tavern in Põltsamaa to buy a stallion. The soldier jumped off the coach near the path which took him home. But the next day it was rumored that the tavern keeper had hanged himself and become the devil's stallion. There are some intertextual links between this legend and the folk tales. We see the soldier, the same main hero. Also the innkeeper from the folk tale appears here as a negative character who becomes the horse of the the devil, but again it's more remarkable that the landlords have been identified. Some of these place names are imaginary. It is the school boy has invented some place names, it looks like, but some places are real, so the story is connected to the everyday life, the social environment of the people. There is another Estonian legend type about the devil's horses, as the devil comes to the smithy and asks the blacksmith to shoe his horse, and then the blacksmith sees that the legs of horses, their feet are actually human feet, so it is a scary scene, and often also in the stories the horse, the devil, is identified as a former landlord from the neighborhood. So in migratory legends, in international beliefs, there are different ideas. Who are the sinners who turn into the horses? Sometimes it's a suicide or a drunkard or a lover of the priest in Estonia. The connection is strong with landlords, with places, with individuals. We can ask a question about beliefs here. Do these legends discuss beliefs about the afterlife or something else? It is true that spirits and also the devil very often appear as animals, including the horses, but I would not say that it was a common belief that the landlords or human beings really turn into horses, into live, real, tangible animals to serve the devil. Rather, we're talking here about morals, about the Christian values. That's the main message. But it's difficult to say. We can also talk about the narrative potential of evoking beliefs, of creating serious attitudes, and we're talking about the flexibility and adaptability of narratives, how they go well together with the social world, how the story world and social reality, how they merge together. Now, finally, I would like to return to this idea, manor as a hill, that is so common in this folk tale, and we find it often in Estonian songs. One of the first Estonian folk songs that was published was in the 1779 edition of Folktale, published by Johann Gottfried von Herder, and here is just a passage from the song. There is no Estonian version, but we have this translation by Guntis Michens. If I can flee from the manor, I will run away from hell. I'll escape from the jaws of the wolf. I'll escape the throat of the lion, from the sharp back teeth of the pike, from the bite of a spotted dog, from the bite of the black dog. And just an illustration from Middle Ages and also in early modern times, we often find these pictures of hell, the jaws of hell, and also the depiction of hell as a castle, as a manor that we find in Estonian folk songs and also in this tale type. Or another illustration from medieval drama, medieval theatre, where the stage was often set, as you can see from here on one side, we see the heaven, the paradise, and at the other end of the stage, for simultaneous action, we find the hell again, this jaws of hell that you find in Estonian songs, and also the castle, the manor, and the burning castle. It's also an image that is there in Estonian folk songs. Let's take one more example. Ennäe, kus paistab põrgu linna, kuradi kodunäikse, siin ta vallid valgendavad, siin ta harjad haljendavad, iga päev siin peksetakse, lihakilda lõigatakse, toobil verda mõõdetakse, Saksal süüa saadetakse, junkrul juua annetakse, kupp ja keeta kastetakse, aidame hambaid võietakse. So the landlord and the devil identified. It's the landlord, but also the devil who is drinking blood, eating flesh, and the work at manors could be quite harsh. there was violence, beating, the discipline was very strict, so the peasants were not definitely happy about the life at the manor, and this appears in these images of folk songs. In these songs, in Estonian beliefs, we can talk about the diabolization of human, of real landlords. In the folktale, it's the opposite. We can talk about the humanization of the devil. The devil is a kind figure. And finally, briefly, I only mentioned that there was this textual tradition of clerical books, hymnals, pictures that were printed, that circulated, pictures of the devil, of hell. Here is an example from late 19th century Estonia, and an example of one song about the pains in hell. A visionary, powerful song in 18 stanzas that gives a very dramatic, really painful description of the punishments for different kind of sins. It is time to draw the conclusions. So, what was this talk about? We were talking about one folk tale, how to see the connections between this tale type and other genres, beliefs, legends, folk songs. So the phenomenological variation, if we take only this tale type, it's quite rich. There was no time to discuss all the motives here. There is a lot of diversity of motives. But if we step out from this tale type to study the other genres, then the world of beliefs really starts to open up. We see this transgeneric circulation of motives, mental images, and we see how genres relate to each other, how they interact. We see how this coherent worldview is built up in the cooperation of genres, but we also see the inversion of motives. Sometimes the beliefs don't go well together. There is these junctions in beliefs. There are contradictions. And we can talk about the division of labor among genres. Lauri Hongo has written about this, how they carry different messages, but still they have one function of building up the worldviews, the mental and social realities. And finally, I just say that belief narrative as a concept, as a tool for thinking, seems quite useful for me, especially if we want to approach this transgeneric dimension of folklore. We want to see how different genres work together. Thank you. And finally, just some references.